Greetings, brothers and sisters. I'm Professor Spira, and going on a little walk out here. It's real pretty. It's the front of my house. Yeah. I'm blessed to live right down the street from a nice river. All that good stuff. But yeah, I just got this new phone. So I'm trying out the feature, the self-video feature, and I think this thing will upload it directly to YouTube and that kind of thing. So just an informal stroll with Professor Spira, and it's a little bit chilly. I've really been missing the warm weather this summer. We haven't had that many days of warm weather, and I just haven't been able to really sunbathe like I like, and just be outside in the sun with skin exposed as much as possible. You know, for me, that's a huge part of this thing that doesn't necessarily get discussed much, but you know, on there it talked about sunbathing, and it's just another piece that I think a lot of people don't talk about. And of course, and I think the idea of it is probably misconstrued, because it's a natural thing to be out in the sun and to have your skin exposed to the sun, and breathing in. It talks a lot about breathing and the exercises. And actually want to give a shout out to Andre. He had posted up a question about the arid exercises, and it actually had been some years. I went back when I was getting into the diet. I did the arid exercises a lot. You know, I had different periods where I experimented with them and checked them out and that kind of thing. And then I got away from them. But Andre had asked a question on the forum. Was like, "Hey, has anybody been? What's people have to say about the exercises that Eric talks about in the Mucusless Diet?" And I was like, "Yeah, I haven't done those in a while, so let me do those again and see how they are." And it really is. It was. I mean, I learned a lot. I've just been doing them kind of again the past week, and you can see where I'm at here, down here by the river. But yeah, I've been doing them for the past week, and I see that just like everything else, they are deceptively effective. Like, you look at them and you read through them and you do them a little bit, and you kind of like, they just seem, you might have a stereotype thinking that they're going to be arcane or something, but you do them and you see exactly why he put those 9 exercises in there. Because they're very much, they deal with like the connective, it's almost like the connective tissues in the joints, the strengthening of the joints in major sections in the arms, the shoulders, strengthening of the core in the stomach. And I was just like, wow, this is just getting back into it again. And that's something that you do. I mean, that's why I really just love the Mucusless Diet, because there's so much there, but it's subtle and it's sophisticated, and unless you spend time with it and you really interrogate it, you might miss it. You might miss something, because this was something I was thinking about today. People there tend to be a handful of people, like types of people, that come to the Mucusless Diet in the way that they, almost what they take away from the diet. And you have people that come in, they might be meat eaters, and so they might focus on the vegetarian part of the Mucusless Diet. Eric talks about using stuff like cottage cheese in the beginning, sometimes depending on what the case may be. You know, he talks about using you know, they were the primitive versions of like the fake meats, the soy products, and it wasn't soy they were really using back then. They were using like texturized wheat protein and this kind of thing. But you know, that's in the Mucusless diet. You know, we don't talk about it a whole lot, but I used some of those things early on, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. Again, the whole purpose of the Mucusless diet is, where are you going? What is the highest level that you're trying to attain? Because there is no limit that I've been able to see, and I haven't seen anybody be able to take the Mucusless diet the whole way. So there really is no limit. It's really where do you want to get off the elevator? You can get off the elevator at veganism. You can get off the elevator at fruit eating, fasting. I mean, it's up to you. I'm trying to go the whole way. And people I know that really practice it seriously, is like long-term practitioners of Mucusless diet, just want to take it the full way in terms of physiological liberation, and what does that, and whatever that means to you. You know, sometime I'll get more into what it really means to me, which that might be one of those too hot. That's the kind of stuff we like to discuss in the affiliate group, because it's kind of too hot for YouTube, I think. But just because it's not that I don't want to share that kind of stuff, it's that as an educator, I'm conscious of the diversity of people that are coming from this particular avenue, the YouTube kind of audience, and there's certain things that it's just not good to get into in this kind of thing, you know, because I get questions sometimes about we would say the deeper aspects of the diet or of things, and some of those kind of things are just better to be discussed person to person, or in a group, or in a real serious kind of context where everybody there really is on the same page to a certain extent, you know, so you don't turn off a lot of people, and that you don't leave people behind, because that's not fun either, you know, if you're just talking over people's heads. And so I try not to do that either. So but anyway, well, I got off on my tangent. And this is what happens when if I don't have a plan and I just kind of start talking. I will talk very as they say in academia, discursively, where I kind of do that kind of thing. But back to what I was saying. So you got vegetarian, you got people coming in at vegan that will use the diet, maybe transition to the level of veganism. Then you got people that, some people read the Mucusless diet and all they see is fruitarianism. That's it. I mean, it's almost like the transition diet and the mechanics of the transition diet, the talk about the skin and the sun and the importance of breathing. It's almost like they didn't even read that in the book. All they read was humans are supposed to be mono fruit eaters, and they totally take Eric out of context. They take Eric never told anybody to just start eating nothing but fruit. I mean, I don't even know how people are, but again, it's like the discipline for me of really studying the Mucusless diet deep and getting deeper and deeper into it is you get beyond whatever was the stuff that you were bringing to it, the baggage that you brought to the diet. People that come to the diet and all they see is fruitarianism, they're bringing this baggage to the diet. They're bringing this idealism and this stuff that's really not there. In the same way, then the other group of people are people that are nervous to get into the fasting part. So they might deal with the diet part and kind of get into, vegan, kind of a vegan diet that's sort of inspired by the Mucusless diet, but they have no real interest in the fasting chapter. The fasting thing, they're nervous about fasting. They don't necessarily want to experiment with it, and so what happens in those cases oftentimes is those people have to go through a nasty elimination where they're eliminating mucus, or they're really fatigued, or they're going through some kind of something where they either have to kind of, it's like put up or shut up, and that's part of the system. That's really what the system does, is it makes you get into the healing process. And but that's interesting to me. That type of person that can really get into the diet, and they can get into all kinds of different transitional recipes, and they kind of understand the diet side of it, but they are apprehensive about the fasting. Then you have the opposite extreme. The people that don't want to have nothing to do with the transition, don't want to have nothing to do with the diet part, but I want to fast for the rest of my life. I just want to stop eating. If we're an air gas engine, let's just stop eating. There's those people. Yet again, what about the sun? What about the science of breath? What about the transition diet? What about the vegetarian options? Are you just going to skip over all that? But again, that's that baggage that people that bring a certain type of idealism to the diet, that as opposed to embracing the system. And that's what I try to instill in others, is examine the entire system. And there's so much more, and that's why I use the word system. And I'm starting to get to the point where I start, instead of saying Mucusless diet all the time, I'm going to say healing system. The healing system is really what we're talking about, the healing system. Because it is about system. And like Brother Air said, nobody else has a system. A lot of the other people that promote the various healing modalities and things, there's not a system involved. We have a very strong system, and to me, that's what needs to be interrogated and really examined. And I know there was a question. I'm going to do another question and answer session, but I think Gabriel had put up a question asking, is the Mucusless diet an attachment? Or can you be attached to the Mucusless diet? But then he was talking about Eric. You're dealing with a couple different issues there. Are you attached to the Mucusless diet? Well, what is the Mucusless diet? Are you attached to the healing system? For me, I would not use that word attachment when it comes to that. I am attached to eating certain mucus-forming foods. So I don't, that idea of being attached to a person. There's people that give me inspiration. Arnold Eric gives me inspiration. And this channel pretty much deals with the health side of things. But that's a very small piece of my interest in things that I have expertise in. I'm a professional musician. I could sit on here and talk for hours about jazz music, about the African American history of the African diaspora. We could talk about physics. We could talk about chemistry. We could talk about there's really no subject that I am not interested in and that I haven't spent some time studying. And of course, there's certain things that I know more about than others in various subjects. So the way I look at the Mucusless diet, for me, it's just another subject that I'm passionate about, that I like to study, that I like to share with others, and it's something that I feel is important for more people to understand. And the reason that, at least on this channel and in my work, that I'm trying to hit home the Eretz principles, is because nobody else is doing it. How many raw foodist YouTube channels and Facebook groups are there? There's dozens, if not hundreds. It is Eric called it a fad, and that was back in the early 1900s. But it is sort of this established thing that has this ethos, that has a dogma, that kind of has this this level of consciousness about it, and it's popular. And people, when you say raw foods, it activates a certain kind of dialogue with people, where people already know that language. If you want to be a part of the raw foods community and you want to talk and use their little catchphrases, it's saturated. There's so much of it out there. Veganism is the same way. Holistic, various holistic and naturopathic areas. Whether it be, iridology is a little bit more rare, but there's from iridology to massage to, it's anything out there. How many Mucusless Diet based Facebook groups are there? How many YouTube channels of people that really are focusing on what's coming out of the Mucusless diet? The wisdom and the analysis and the understanding that's coming from that, because it's very different from the analysis that you're going to get from raw food channels or fruitarian channels or these other modes. And then that's fine. What I'm saying is that my contribution to the discussion is saying, hey, check this out. This is something that's important to check out. As far as the more advanced discussions, we are talking about, all we really do is talk about our experiences of what we did. We're not, as Brother Air always points out, we're not really saying, like, okay, when you have a cold, drink this concoction, do this. It's not that type of medicinal approach to things. We're saying that we've examined the book, we looked at the principles of the book, and the question is, what can we bring to the table? That's what interests me about really anybody that has a channel, that has a book, that has whatever they have. What have you brought to the table? What have you contributed? In other words, what have you contributed to the work that has come before you? So with the Mucusless Diet, I brought something to the table in terms of the experiences I've had and the work that I've done and the understanding that's come out of that. Brother Air has brought something to the table, so I'm into Brother Air. I feel Dr. Morris has brought something to the table, and I respect and enjoy stuff he puts out. But the level that I demand in terms of what's being brought to the table that interests me, that gets my attention, is fairly high. So I don't have a whole lot of people, at least in that realm, that I really get in, that I remain into. But I've studied over the years. I was into different people at different times, and I like to see what everybody has to say. So I went through the Hilton Hotima, and I've been through a lot of the so-called New Age spiritual gurus and people, and like I talk about the Sedona method all the time because how much that helped me, So, and there again, I throw those things out. You would have to go and study that stuff on your own and see if it was, and see what it is. And I was working with a gentleman today, and we were, I kind of turned him on to the Sedona method. So he was, he's kind of going through some things, and I was like, but check this out. Combining the Sedona method with the Mucusless diet is very powerful. So, but it's not the kind of thing that I really, at least at this level, again, because I'm trying to focus on this is what's necessary. Until I hear, I don't know how large of a group, but until I start to hear dozens of people competently talk about the transition diet from experience, I can tell immediately when I hear somebody talking, first, if they've read the Mucusless Diet, and two, if they've understood and practiced the transition. I mean, it comes out in every word that they say, if they truly understand the transition. And that's what I'm not seeing as much. I'm not seeing that really understanding the transition. And that's fine. But we're going to keep talking about it, and talking about it, and talking about it in the way that a lot of the other folks that, whether it's Dr. Morris or Dan McDonald, or whoever, the principles that they deal with, they are talking about them over and over and over again. Dr. Sebi, Lilia Africa, all these guys basically have a handful of things that they're very passionate about, that they find to be very important to bits of information to pass on, and they say it over and over again in different ways. And my thing is the transition diet. If you get nothing else from this channel and from my writings and the things I put out, it's the concept of transition and understanding how transition and transitional consciousness, it's a paradigm, it's a way of life. Understand, because whether you're conscious of it or not, you're transitioning now. The question is, in what direction are you transitioning? A great thing to analyze to understand the nature of fasting and physiological transition is a baby. You don't have to read. You don't have to read my stuff. You don't have to read anything. Observe a baby. Observe from the moment a baby's born. First thing it does, it's breathing. It's not eating anything. It's not drinking yet. It's breathing. Then it becomes a liquidarian. And what's the purpose of it consuming mother's milk? It helps slow down the elimination that's already happening. Slows down the elimination. At least that's the perspective that we have coming from our point of view. Slows down the elimination. Then what? Baby transitions a little bit more, and now it's getting into a place where it is can actually eat solid food. Or maybe it's dealing with juices. And if you have a really great mother and father practice a diet that they themselves understand the transition, they can properly transition the child. To get them into some fruit juices, vegetable juices, and then get them into the raw fruit. Get them into some soft vegetables, and it's a transition over time to the point where solid foods can be dealt with. Right now, with baby formulas and this kind of stuff that they use, when you look at the ingredients in that stuff, the children are basically being transitioned directly into pus and mucus. It's like the filth that's in these baby formulas and this stuff basically is perfect to transition somebody to get their body ready for Gold Star and Burger King and McDonald's, because you can't just do that. Like, you can't come right out the womb and then you're eating McDonald's. You have to transition and filth up your body to a point where you can deal with those foods. And they have really refined that process. Now what we're trying to do is let's refine the unfilthing process. Let's see if we can unfilth and get to a point where it's impossible for us to eat that stuff. It's like I say, as long as you can still physically eat something, you're not better than that thing. You're not beyond it. Because there's a lot of people that think that they're more advanced than they really are physiologically. I know what I can and can't eat. Things that I can't eat no longer resemble food to me. So I don't crave them. I don't crave meat because it doesn't even, it's not even like it's food. Like, I don't crave Clorox bleach, and I know you've probably heard me say that a million times, but that is a real mark of how you look at what you're doing and get a sense of where you're really at. What are you craving, and what can you physically actually tolerate? And it's interesting because I see a lot of folks that don't transition properly, that try to become fruitarians too quick or whatever, and try to go too far too fast, and it's deceptive because you can do that for a short period of time and feel great, and it's like, yeah, wow, I'm feeling good, I'm this and that, and there's people that do it for 2, 3, 5, 10 years where they have found this space physiologically where they kind of hang at. But sooner or later, what happens is the fall hits, and now you're dealing with a lot of your issues, and there's been a lot of accounts of people going all the way back to meat. They might have been trying to be fruitarian for 10 years, then they have a fall, and now they're going back to meat, like overnight. Or the people that, some of the raw food folks that went overnight went back into paleo diet because they started getting fatigue or brain fog or whatever it was that they were going through because they didn't transition and go through a real serious detoxification process. They went back. So that's why I'm saying the transition is accessible to everybody. But I think there's, at this stage in the game, there's almost a humbling. The Mucusless diet is very humbling because it will put you in your place in terms of whatever. If you think you're advanced, you think you're big shot, like, I've done these long fasts, or I did this, or like you think you're advanced, get deeper into the Mucusless diet. Get deeper into the healing system. And see, and as Brother Air would say, well, we'll see. We'll see, what happens, because, and I'm not just talking again about the diet part. I'm talking about the whole system. And I'm talking about the sun today because I want the sun. It's chilly out here. It's like 70 degrees. And I would prefer it to be about 85, 90 degrees, but there's just so much more to this thing that is not being really acknowledged or addressed and discussed. And that's why I love guys like Andre, man. I mean, he's tearing into the Mucusless diet, and getting into the exercises and checking out the enemas and checking out, just checking it out for himself so he knows. And Tony, of course. And others that are really, really digging into this thing, and they have the same experiences or similar experiences that other people have had, because this isn't about reading a book or hearing people talk about the diet and then you can be part of the club because you can speak with the catchphrases. This is you basically are reading a book of your body. The Mucusless diet, as in terms of a book, is kind of like a map to your physiology and to into a process of transitioning and a way of thinking. So it's basically a map, but the real book to read is the book of your physiology, is the book of your body, and that is really the thing that will separate you, where we will know, okay, you've been reading your body. There's an analysis there, there's an understanding, there's experiences there that it's like, okay, well, that is there's certain things that you will only know about if you really practice a Mucusless diet. And so it's hard to talk about those things people that, you know, because I can get into fasting, but in talking about that, but a lot of my experiences that I had on fasting, they don't translate well to talking about it, because it's beyond the kind of rational and scientific. Like, the reason I like talking about transition, it's very rational. You can talk about it in more artistic and scientific, because oftentimes when you're dealing with an art form, people will analyze art in a somewhat scientific type of manner or approach, whether it be music theory or how you draw, just the mechanics. What's the mechanics of making music? What's the mechanics of drawing? What's the mechanics of transitioning in the diet? You know, so you can kind of approach things in that way. So I like to talk about that. I start talking about fasting, that gets really abstract in terms of my experiences, because things, you know, you have a loss for words at the enormity of what you are experiencing, what it is to get in tune with everything around you. You know, no matter what environment you're in, everything is in its place and as it should be. I can't really. There's not much I can really get into and say about it, because it's I would say it feels like home. You know, when I'm fasting, when I'm in a fruit juice type of mode or something like that, that feels like home. And that was something that I experienced when I first got into the diet. That's where I knew that this is for me. It feels like home, because I never really felt at home in society as it is, because I don't relate well to the wars and the torture and the raping and the things that I'm not able to really ignore, or that when I was growing up really bothered me because I couldn't ignore history. So instead of ignoring it, I just had to study it. You know, so I had to study history really well, and I had to study. A lot of people, like they say, you know, ignorance is bliss. Like, it'd be if I wasn't forced to have to deal with a lot of those things, then, you know, I don't know where I'd be at. But I had to deal with that stuff. I had to study that stuff, because I really wanted to understand what was wrong with this world. And I just never really felt comfortable. I felt comfortable in nature. In Boy Scouts, I used to go out, and that's where I really got introduced into camping and doing stuff like that. And you know, so that always felt good. You know, that felt like home too. You know, I was, but it was, you know, and of course, you know, you feel home with family and things. But it was still something. You know, something was off in terms of the world. And so then I became the seeker, you know, where I seek out the answers for me, to know where do I belong, what am I supposed to be doing, what's humanity here for, with all this, what's the cause of suffering in the world, all that stuff. I wanted to just know what it was. And fasting, as per the Mucusless Diet as a healing system, the fasting leg of it really, really, really was the piece that opened all that up. It was like, oh, this is who I am. I'm home. And so it's just basically the feeling of you're back. You know, you're home. Because it's not a stimulated thing. It's an anti-stimulant. It's not. It's about being unstimulated. And so yeah. So I don't know. I'll try to. Maybe that could be a challenge, to see if I can, you know, talk a little bit more about the fasting and that kind of thing, because it's part of it. And I noticed that the fasting discussions are lacking. You know, there is a bit more sophistication. I'm seeing people a handful of people talking better about transition and things of that nature, but the analysis of fasting is not as per rational fasting or the arid perspective is not really where it needs to be, I don't think, in terms of the community. So that's what I did. That sort of was my analysis with the transition diet. I looked up and I said, okay, well, there's nobody talking about this, so let me contribute this. And now I'm looking, and there's a lot of people talking about different types of fasting, but very rarely will I see somebody get into a deep analysis of the art of transitioning in and out of a fast, and this kind of thing that I'm talking about with, like, looking at a baby transition. I think that actually the initial thought of that, me and Danny Michael was talking about that one day, and he was kind of had this analysis, and we were going back and forth about children, and that kind of came out of there. But that kind of analysis, everything is transition. So it's not about applying, like, okay, this is what you do, this is what you eat, this is when you eat it. It's not about that. It's about understanding the world through this transition. It's like I said, whether you like it or not, you're transitioning, because nobody eats the same exact foods that they ate when they were 1 year old. And what's good for us to do is analyze the nature of the transition. Analyze, like, why do we transition in terms of a diet? We might go from, and I just noticed from myself, where I ate a lot. So through teenage years, I just got progressively more and more to the point where the mass of food that I could consume became more and more and more. And what happens to a lot of people in our society is they go to college, for the first time, they're away from home, and they lose it because it's indulging in all kinds of stimulants that they might not have had access to that much, just smorgasbord every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and so on and so forth. So a lot of people pack on a ton of pounds in a relatively short period of time. That's part of their long-term transition, because again, we're analyzing this transition process. Then you get into adulthood, and depending on the habits, they might chill a little bit, or it could get worse. If it gets worse, a lot of those people don't make it very long. They might check out in their 40s or 50s. Then you got people that don't take it to that extreme, and they get into their 50s, 60s. Now, the transition isn't over. They're not eating the same thing that they ate when they were in college. They're not eating the same thing that they ate when they were a child. Now, they're starting to revert back, because you get into this forced fast process in this sort of more elderly kind of thing that has developed, because I don't think that's really normal for humans to go through that in that way. But you begin to transition back into more of a diet of much less, because physically you can't handle it anymore. And like I said, it used to be interesting to me. When I used to go to restaurants, I would see the so-called older adults section of the menu, which would have smaller portions for the older folks. And so that's transition, but who's talking about that? Who's observing that? That kind of observation comes from somebody that has understood and studied the transition diet. And to me, that's the kind of analysis that can be applied to anything. And that's what I want to hear more of. I want to hear more analysis of transition, of your own personal transition, transitions that you see in the world, systems of transition. It's going on all around us. Whether you want to talk about the changing of the seasons, depending on where you are, whether maybe it's a dry season and a rainy season, or maybe you have 4 seasons, but that's just a concept that humans have created. There's really no such thing as seasons, but there is a such thing as transition if you observe it and you want to apply that word to it. I guess, you could argue that there's no such thing as transition too. I would disagree. I think it's a very apt word and concept. It's useful. In academia, people will always, in their papers, they ask, what's the usefulness of this concept? What's the usefulness of the nutrition concept? Eric said, and I agree, that the usefulness of it is lacking. Now, not only is it lacking, but it's problematic because it holds people back from understanding a real process of elimination. But what is the usefulness of the concept of transition? And I find that concept to be very useful and very necessary in terms of cleansing oneself, healing, detoxifying, all of these goals that a lot of people have in terms of getting themselves together. It's a very useful concept. So that becomes sort of the goal, is finding useful concepts and seeing where it goes. Definitely seeing where it goes, because at this point it's about, once you get the principles together, it's about what you do with those principles. What do you do? And that's what you bring to the table, because everybody's experience is going to be a lot different, and what everybody's bringing to the table will be a lot different. But in order to really bring something to the table, you got to know where the table is. And I think that's what the Mucusless Diet Healing System and Rational Fasting books and just Eric's works will kind of point you in the direction of the table. Like, well, there's the table over there. And then the question is, well, what are you bringing to it? And so that's my challenge to you, is bring something to the table, bring something new to the table, something new. And that's difficult, that's hard, because a lot of people, what they try to do, I think, with the Mucusless diet is they try to bring other things from other systems or from other things, and try to make it fit or force it into the Mucusless diet. And to me, that's just very problematic. If you're going to truly use your body as the book, and you're learning to read your body, then bring what you have. Bring your experience to the table, and that will be the transition of the 21st century Mucusless diet, the transition of the practice, and the evolution of it to greater heights. That's all we're trying to do, is just take this thing to the higher and higher levels. So it was an interesting first little video discussion here, so I will end it there. This was my first phone video, so I hope the audio's cool. I hope that the video is okay, and I'll try to upload it, and we will see how this thing, we'll see how this does. So let me know if you like these kind of videos. I can do more of them. I just never. It's kind of hard for me sometimes to know what are the type of videos that people really like to see on the channel, because it varies sometimes. And I try to do a variety of things. So we'll see if you like more of these just casual discussions that don't really have a focused topic. Then do some more of those. And I got there's a lot of content actually I got to get out that I've been sitting on, and I've been trying not to overwhelm the YouTube thing. So anyway, I want to thank you if you're still watching. Thank you for all of your love and support, and I think I'm gonna swing. So I'll talk to you later. Peace, love, and breath.